All right, I see it's starting to level off here, so I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning, afternoon, evening, wherever it is from where you're coming from today. My name is Josie Landers, and I'm an Associate Director of Admissions here at Columbia Business School. And I'm excited to talk to all of you today about our January entry MBA program, which is a full-time MBA structure here at Columbia. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the program and the application process, and then I will be happy to introduce some community members that we have here today, including a member of our Career Management Center, an alumnus of the J-Term program, and a current student. And then we will dive into some questions, both prepared and from our Q&A box. So feel free to drop some questions as we go into the Q&A box and we will save them for the end. With that, I'm excited to talk about our full-time MBA starting in January, which really does open up so many opportunities for our students and our alumni. Really gives students the chance to scale and really propel their careers forward. At Columbia, we have such a global business education in every sense of the word. Our full-time MBA class has students from 70 different countries, and we also really encourage our students to take advantage of different global education opportunities like a global immersion program pictured here, where students can learn abroad with for a week or a semester as well. And so we really incorporate those global perspectives and, knowledge offerings into our curriculum. It's also really important for us to pair that theory with practice for our MBA students. So, in addition to the research that's put out by our full-time faculty that continues to shape the business world, that really applies that theoretical foundation, we also offer a more practical based, elective offerings. So giving the chance to, use cases and work and projects from companies around New York, as well as incorporating like treks into the curriculum too, as you can see here, bringing up guest speakers into the classroom thanks to our location here in New York. Combining that theory and practice to enable our students to be really well versed and knowledgeable business professionals. And you really can't separate the Columbia University identity from New York. They are so intertwined, and New York plays such a valuable and integral role in our full-time MBA experience. From, the recruiting opportunities that come from having all these businesses and main offices downtown to the way New York also creates opportunities for students as, in classrooms to go and visit different offices, to also, life as a CBS student, being a student here in New York and going to a Yankees game together or a Broadway show. It really enriches the entire student experience and it's unmatched in the professional opportunities as we are the center of business. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention how huge the alumni network is for Columbia University. CBS has over 53,000 alumni worldwide, and the alumni are really involved in the entire life cycle of the process, from interviewing applicants in the admissions process or joining us for a webinar to mentoring students while they're here on campus, all the way to really welcoming them with open arms after they graduate into the 80 different alumni clubs around the world in pretty much every major city. Now, today's focus is definitely on the January entry start for our full-time MBA program, but I do want to highlight here, while we have a minute, some other degree options at Columbia. We also have a couple other ways to enter the full-time MBA, including August and the deferred enrollment program for folks who may be in their final year of college. We have numerous dual degree options, as well as couple different formats for executive MBA for folks who are looking to continue working full-time while they study. We have a New York option as well as a partnership with London Business School for our global option, as well as a few different MS and PhD offerings on campus. But today is really more about that full-time MBA. I'm excited to talk about the unique structure that our January entry offers, and wanted to highlight here some of the amazing offerings and achievements that our students have gone on to, do after graduating, such as 800 venture-backed startups founded by students and alumni alike. Now, for that full-time MBA for January, this is a very unique structure and unique to Columbia University. We're very proud of it and proud of our J-term community. Uh, though your typical August entry MBA program would start in the fall, our January entry starts in January, in the spring, and they complete their core curriculum in that spring term. In the summer, they continue their coursework instead of doing that full-time internship and do a mix of core and electives, although mainly electives. And then in the fall, our January entry completes a full year of electives alongside our August start cohort, and they graduate side by side together in the spring. Our January entry has usually about 200 or so students. And because they don't have the full-time internship in the summer, which the August entry does, it usually attracts folks who are looking to accelerate their MBA experience and may not need a full-time internship to achieve their career goals. So we see a lot of sponsored consultants, a lot of folks who are returning to their firms. We also see a lot of family business backgrounds, as well as a lot of entrepreneurs who are looking to get started and advance their ventures quicker. Um, our January entry, yeah, usually has about 200, and then August usually has about 700 in total, for about, 900 to 1,000 in a graduating class together. Whether you start in August or January, you take the same exact curriculum, same courses, and you take them together, especially in your second year. And it's, you are really earning the same full-time MBA, just with different needs for that, professional experience. And when we review our applications for January or August, they're the same. We look at three main buckets. We do have a holistic admissions review process, but I do realize that admissions offices in the US really like to throw that term around. So this is what we mean by that. First is going to be that academic history. We're going to take a look at your undergraduate transcript, what you studied, how you challenged yourself, what you were interested in, and then we'll also take a look at your graduate transcripts if you have them. We'll combine that transcript history with your standardized test score. We don't have a preference between the GMAT, the GRE, or the executive assessment. All are weighed equally, but we do want you to perform to the best of your academic ability. So I would take some time to think about which one would speak to your strengths the best. Secondly, we also care about your professional promise a great deal. This is a business school. So we'll take a look at what you've been up to since you graduated from your undergrad, right? We'll take a look at the kinds of roles that you've had, the kind of impact you've had in the workplace, maybe what changes or growth you've had. And we'll also get an account of this from a letter of recommendation. The letter of recommendation is ideally from a direct supervisor. Of course, this isn't always possible. Say you're one of those family business backgrounds, you cannot ask a family member to be your recommender. So if a direct supervisor is not possible, I would recommend a past supervisor. or someone who can speak to your professional journey, someone you've had professional accountability towards, so maybe a client, but it ideally wouldn't be an academic reference. And then you also have the chance to expand on your professional goals in the essays and the interview. And for our final bucket, we have the personal characteristics. This really just means we want to know who you are, what makes you tick, what do you care about. We get a sense of that from the activities you were involved in your undergrad or post then. We also get a sense of who you are from how you answer a couple more behavioral questions. But I would say we really get a sense of who you are from the interview where we get to see those personal characteristics in action. Your personal characteristics then really shine, but I do want to note that your interview is by invitation only. And if you are extended an invitation to interview, it will be with one of three different parties. It may be with an admissions officer like myself, it might be with an alumnus of the program, or it might be with a student ambassador. For those essay questions and short answer questions, the short answer questions are really short. I do mean that, only 50 characters. And it's going to be two questions. What are you hoping to do after you graduate? And why is the January entry a good fit for you? You have a chance to expand on that first short answer with essay one, which is 500 words on your professional goals, both in the short term and in the long term. So we want to know, how does the MBA get you to those next steps? Essay two is a bit shorter, it's only 250 words, and it's about you sharing one time that you made a team more collaborative, made people feel included. This can be a personal instance, it can be a professional instance. It's really just more about one time you exemplified that value. And then finally, essay three, also 250 words, and it's grounded in the idea that every single person has a different MBA experience. All of you are choosing different electives, you're choosing different careers, you're coming in with different resumes and life histories. And so we're curious, how are you going to make your optimal MBA experience? What are you hoping to get out of the experience, and what are you hoping to bring to it? Our January entry application for 2027 is open. It opened earlier this summer, and the final deadline is August 13th at noon Eastern Time. So for those of you applying, please note that that will be the final deadline, and if you apply by then, you'll hear no later than October 1st. All right, with that, I'm so excited to turn it over to our panelists to introduce themselves. I'm going to first introduce Long Wu, who's our Executive Director of Career Education and Student Engagement, to talk a little bit about professional offerings for January entry students and our Career Management Center.
Awesome. Thank you so
Awesome.
much. Thank you so much, Josie. And greetings, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you all. As mentioned, my name is Long Wu. I'm the Executive Director of Career Education and Student Engagement at the Career Management Center, otherwise known as CMC. And I'm very happy to spend a couple of minutes to talk about some of our offerings and what you can expect from our center. Our job at the CMC is simple. We're here to help you succeed, not just during your time at CBS or landing your first post-MBA job, but throughout your career. We're here to empower students and alumni to achieve their lifelong career goals. And we do this by providing personalized career coaching, building and sustaining relationships with employers across industries and geographies, and leveraging the strength of the CBS network. And you heard this right. Our relationship doesn't end when you graduate. You'll have access to CMC resources as an alum. And while you're here, you won't navigate this process alone. For personalized support, every student has access to our ACE model, which is ACE, and it stands for Advisors, Coaches and Fellows, and Executives and Residents, which Josie kind of alluded to earlier before. I am a CMC advisor, which is the A for in the ACE model, and we're full-time CMC staff members who are your strategic partners throughout your time at CBS. So start with us with any questions, and we can help you kind of navigate the process and point you in the right direction. Coaches are CBS alums who are current industry practitioners, and they specialize in industry specific advising. So they're great if you want an industry specific question answered. They're great resources to go to, and they're also an alum. So they added that layer of understanding what your experience is like as a student. And fellows are second year students who went through the recruiting process the first year, and they are here to offer support. So they are our student leaders in the office. And finally, executive in residence are former C suite level executives who provide long term career strategy conversations. So whether you're exploring options, preparing for an interview, or managing offers, there's someone to help. And in terms of your starting, we talked about there's different reasons of why starting a J term. But if you are recruiting as a J term student, it does require intentional job search strategy. You're just on a different timeline than your peers, and your needs might be different, right? You might be thinking of pivoting offices when your current employer, or pivoting to a different industry completely. At J-term students, as Josie mentioned, you don't have the time for a traditional summer MBA internship, but instead, many students use their time to leverage and prepare for the full-time recruiting in the fall, or they source and secure in-semester internships. And quite frankly, a lot of networking. That's what they're doing, using that time to kind of build that runway for them. So when you arrive on campus, our office will begin with offering you a full day boot camp to build foundational skills. And then throughout the year, you'll be offered workshops that focuses on professional branding and pitch, international. If you're an international student, we have international job search strategies, AIs in the job search, as well as networking and interviewing. And additionally, we also partner with a lot of employers and bring them on campus as well to do various events, which you'll be able to attend as well. And then lastly, I also want to double click on New York City, and that location matters that Josie mentioned before. Being in New York City, it provides you access to one of the world's premier dynamic job markets, and also places you at the center of business, right? So for many industries, including private equity, venture capital, real estate, media, tech startups, recruiting happens all year round. So as mentioned, students benefit and leverage the city to secure the in-semester internships, participate in the company visits or industry treks, and attend various employer and alumni events that CMC, CBS, as well as the city has to offer. And then finally, I want to close out that you will have the tools to succeed. You'll have access to 1220, which is our career services platform, a career management course on Canvas that's filled with recruiting timelines, different industries, as well as guides for those industries, and also recorded workshops. And then we also have technical preparation platforms if you're recruiting for consulting or investment banking. And we also work closely with the professional student clubs on campus. So we encourage you to engage early and often. And I wanted just to close out by saying that your career journey at CBS isn't something that you're going to do alone. There's an entire ecosystem of faculty, staff, students, and alumni who are all invested in helping you succeed. So we look forward to partnering with you. Back to
Thank
you,
you so
Josie.
much, Long. Yeah, that's really wonderful to hear about, kind of reinforcing that this is a community, this is a support system. You included alumni, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Augusto.
Hi everyone, how are you? I'm Augusto Agassi, I'm from Argentina, MBA 25. Um, just a quick glimpse about my resume or my life. Previously, pre-MBA, I worked mainly at JP Morgan, PwC, Accenture, and then Pedidos Ya, which is a delivery company like DoorDash, but in all Latin America. And well, as you can see, mainly it was consulting. And then I went and did my MBA at Columbia, my J term. Amazing experience. I would like to do it again, but well, I need to work right now. And I enjoyed the almost 2 years that I stayed there. Uh, I did a lot of things, mainly studying. Don't forget about studying, but it's an excuse to know people and to think about yourself for that time. I think it's a luxury that we have to be learning a lot of things and learning about ourselves. I was part of different clubs, um, rugby, LABA, which is the Latin American Business Association, um, And also, I was part of Hermes, which is a club specifically related to try to help you guys right now for getting into CBS. And I really enjoy that a lot. And that's why I'm still doing this stuff right now. And after my MBA, I came back to Buenos Aires, to Argentina, and I started working again in consulting, strategy consulting mainly, for A.T. Kearney, and then in a local boutique consulting firm. And well, here I am. It's not been that much time since I finished, 1 year, so enjoying the ride.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Augusto. And speaking of the Hermes Society, we are joined by two student ambassadors. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Janushka.
Thanks, Josie. Hi, everyone. I'm Danushka. I grew up in Colombo, Sri Lanka, but I've been in the US for about 11 years now. I moved here for undergrad and have been here ever since. Before Colombia, I spent over 6 years in healthcare consulting, based out of California, working in both of our LA and SF offices. My work focused on advising US federal agencies like Medicare, Medicaid, FDA, the DOJ on healthcare policy and strategy. I chose the J term because I already had several years of professional experience and knew I wanted to make a career pivot after my MBA rather than pursue a traditional summer internship. Um, and I felt like the accelerated format was a great fit for my goals. And I also love the close-knit nature that the J-term community has. And it felt sort of like the best of both worlds for me. So when I was deciding on business schools, Columbia really stood out because of its community. And every student and alumni I spoke to during the admissions process, was so generous with their time, their advice, and that collaborative culture was a huge reason that I chose CBS. And I think since arriving, it's completely lived up to that expectation. And then after my MBA, I'm planning to make a pretty big career pivot. My family owns a freight forwarding and supply chain management company based out of Sri Lanka, with some operations across Asia. And my goal would be to bring what I learned at Columbia and help grow and modernize the business. And then I'd say outside the class, I've gotten pretty involved on campus. Um, and I think at some point I realized that saying yes to things is both a strength and a personality flaw. I'm involved in Hermes, as mentioned before. I'm part of the Family Business Club, student government, just called Expo, the Community Impact Club. I'm also part of my cluster board, and then I'm also on the Wine Society, Art Society, and then the Gourmet Club. I think that's it. But yeah, happy to be here today and help answer any questions.
Well, we're keeping you very busy, Danushka, so thank you for making some time today. And last but not least, Rodrigo, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, I'm Rodrigo Guerrero. I'm from Monterrey, Mexico, and I'm the in the MBA J-term class of 2027. So my background is more in entrepreneurship and family business. I currently own, well, before CBS, I co-founded with a family member a sleep health startup that focuses on sleep diagnostics and improving access to sleep care, specifically in Mexico. And so, what attracted me about CVS was that I wanted to improve my finance skills and also my operational skills to like successfully operate my startup. And when it comes to clubs, I actually took the strategy of getting involved in a lot of clubs since the start, and then actually like narrowing down to the ones that I benefited the most. So the ones that I'm more involved right now are the Family Business Club. I really like the events they do because it maybe it relates more to what I do. And also, I'm getting involved in the private equity club, which I find the finance fireside chat and the panels and the people that they invite really interesting. And well, what attracted me about the J term was that since I come from a family business background and an entrepreneurship background, I didn't really need the traditional in summer internship. So it was like made for me, and I actually it was the only program I applied, and it was like the only option. And luckily, I got in, and so I get access to like the same CBS MBA, the same professors, the same clubs, same network, and just in a timeline that fits for me. So that was perfect for me. And of course, New York. New York is like the place to be if I want to get involved in the finance and entrepreneurship ecosystem.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Now I'm happy to move on to some of our panel questions. So, Rodrigo, I'll start with you. Could you talk a little bit about the experience you've had with fellow J-termers and what the community on campus feels like for you?
Sure. So, well, I'm gonna talk. Before I was applying to CBS, I wanted to go to like a program that felt like a really tight community. And when I thought about New York and CBS, I thought, oh my, like it has a really big alum base. Maybe it's gonna be like in a city where there's not gonna be like a lot of community because everyone is gonna go to their places after class. But I was totally wrong about this. And especially in the J term, I can't speak about the fall term, but in the J term, it's just so it's like 200 of us, and it really like it creates a really tight community. And so we are all here in summer during class. We are pretty much the only alums, the only students in CBS, and it just feels like we're in a really small campus, and everyone know each other, and it's like just what I wanted and just what I was looking for. And also, uh, so it CBS does a really good job in dividing like the students into clusters, so you get all your core classes with your cluster, so you really get to know really well your cluster. And then they also divide it into learning teams. So I have a learning team of five. It's five of us, which we do like all of our projects of the core classes together, and we're really close. And also, I remember the first orientation week. So there were everyone like goes there nervous. We don't know each other. But after the first week, there were so many activities that just like it's to develop leadership skills, but I actually felt them more like to break the ice, and it was like such a good job. And from the second week, we all knew each other and got along well. So I just wanna like give the message that yes, you're in New York. Yes, it's like a 900 alums that are gonna graduate in May, but it just feels so much tight, like and really special community.
Awesome. Yeah, it definitely is kind of a home base within your greater class, and then you start with that, and then really get to know lots of other people too. So thank you so much for highlighting that. And Danushka, you are a member of your cluster board, including many other involvements that you told us about earlier. And I know that some students have the concern that they would be missing out on like a traditional MBA experience with our January entry structure. Could you talk a little bit about the resources or the events that you've been to and really taken a big part of here at CBS?
Sure. So honestly, I think I sort of had that concern as well before starting, but it really has not been my experience at all. From day one, I feel like I've had access to the same classes, the leadership opportunities, professors, career resources, everything that Rodrigo mentioned as well. From day one, same as the August entry students. The only difference really is that traditional summer internship and the recruiting timeline for it. In terms of some events that I feel like I really enjoyed, I would say the Family Business Club puts up a lot of cool events that I've been to. Um, I think I went to this event over the summer actually that was really cool. It was done by one of my classmates where his family runs a ouzo, which is like the traditional alcohol from Greece. and company. And then he essentially did a tasting with the students. He talked about how this, ouzo became I guess one of the main export alcohols from Greece, and he just talked about how his family started the company, founded it, and it was really interesting to hear that because it was such a different startup from how our company started. So it was very interesting to learn how different countries and companies and different across industries are functioning. And then I also think that some of the other cool events that I've been to would be we recently went on a trek to Columbia, which is really nice because this trek included both August entry students and January entry students. So I felt like that was a great opportunity for me to meet a lot of the August entry students I hadn't met before. And that sort of sealed the deal that the J term really is not that different from the August entry students. We're very alike and we do the same things and we have very much the same experience. And the only difference really is just that the summer internship that they pursue and we take classes, as Rodrigo mentioned. And it has been really nice just having us J-term students on campus. It's just like 200 or 300 of us going to classes, hanging out during the lunch breaks, and we get to know each other on a much closer level. And I feel like that really is such an incredible experience. And truly feel like thus far, I've had a very full experience because I've been able to take advantage of so many opportunities while being part of a really close-knit community.
Definitely. I think for some admissions officers, it can be feel really like quiet in the summer, but it's so nice for us to see all the J-termers on campus going to class together, bonding, going to club meetings together. So it's been really great. Augusto, you graduated pretty recently. I'd love to hear a little bit about how like the J-term option aligned well with your goals and what are some of the like the benefits you've experienced since graduating.
Sure. Well, I think the J term it's a good option for different profiles. Some of them
Hmm.
are more related to maybe a family company, family business, and maybe you want to go back. That's not my case. Maybe it's also some profiles that are good or when you're a little bit more experienced than the traditional MBA. I mean, I did my MBA with 31 years old, more than 12 years of experience, already, let's say, a senior manager at the companies that I worked at. So that means that a little bit of my career was more mature than if I was applying for the MBA when I was, I don't know, 27. Um, in in years, it's not that much because 3, 4, 5 years in a life, it's not that much. You still can go and hang out for a beer or do any type of party or stuff like that. But when you think about your professional career, sometimes it's almost the double. Between 5 or 10 years, it's a lot of difference. So I was in that moment of my career, and I think that the J term was the best option for me. Again, it's super personal. It's not something that one size fits all. You need to understand if it's the good option for you at the moment. I felt that I didn't need the internship because I wasn't trying to pivot from industries or trying to do other stuff. So I focus on the J term, trying to live the experience and then trying to see if I could get a job afterwards, which luckily I have.
Awesome. I'm going to follow up with a question for you and also Danushka and Rodrigo. What was a class that was your favorite or a professor that was also a particular favorite for you?
Do should I answer or Rodrigo gonna?
Yes, yes. I would love to hear your perspective too,
Me? Okay.
Augusto.
I remember I loved um, tech strategy with Dan Wang. I would strongly recommend that one. Even though you are not techie or you don't want to get into the, let's say, the tech environment, I think it's a wonderful class for you to open your mind, with a lot of
Hmm.
stuff related to tech. And I think it's going to be a really good tool for the future. In addition to that, I did an elective It's called Turnaround Management. It's a really, let's say, old school Columbia business school class, but it was also amazing.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And Dan Wang is definitely a very popular professor. Danushka and Rodrigo, what about you? What have been your favorite classes?
I can go next. I think one of my favorite classes that I've taken thus far would be the Foundations of Entrepreneurship class that was taught by Professor Matan Griffel. And I think what made it so memorable was that it wasn't just theoretical, like it was taught by a professor who has built many companies himself and is involved with like Y Combinator. So much so that what we learned came from like real experience rather than just a textbook. And he brought in like practical frameworks, founder stories, lessons from building and scaling a startup, what worked, what didn't work, which made every class feel really engaging. And he also brought in some Columbia alums who are currently working in the startup space. We got to learn a lot from them as well. And I just thought it was a great example of what I love about CBS. Many of the professors have been practitioners themselves. So you're learning from people who've actually done what they're teaching, and that brings, I think, a completely different perspective to the classroom.
Definitely. Rodrigo?
Yes. So for me, so far, that like I'm trying to get a lot of finance classes to get a deep dive in finance, and thus far, the one that I've enjoyed most is it's called Financial Statement Analysis and Valuation, by Professor Kailash Jain, and I took that during block week, so it was really intense. It was probably the most intense class during that block week, and so it's pretty much like a accounting too. So it's like the continuation to accounting, but you actually get to value a company and see if it's if like go into the details of the financial statements and see if they're trying to like trick you or maybe hiding some things in the financial statements that you have to adjust in the valuation. And that for me was just like eye opening, and I've always wondered like how that was done, and like the way he dissect like a strategy of a company and the future of a company and the financial statements is what just like really eye-opening for me, and just like really intense. And maybe it's better to take it during the full term or a term or half term. But it was I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm seeing a theme of, how these classes might impact your real life of, you getting that actual experience in the assignment or, hearing about the professor's real life experience with companies or also getting insights into, how tech is clearly changing our everyday life. So awesome. Long, I do want to turn it over to you next. Some January entry students may want to take part on-campus recruiting in the fall of their second year. So what does that recruiting look like for January entry students, and do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, great question. I wanted to maybe take a step back and just talk about recruiting as a whole. So the recruiting experience really depends on the industry that you're targeting and depends on the person, right? So we in the CMC we categorize recruiting into two categories, which is structured or non-structured, or we call it just in time. So the structured recruiting or the on-campus recruiting is primarily used by industries like consulting or investment banking, where they know their staffing plans well in advance, right? They're large companies and they really follow a defined recruiting timeline and process that they agree to and CMC agrees to. And it's also important to know that for full-time recruiting in this sense is that many of these large firms did fill a large portion of their needs in the full-time roles through summer internships. So these roles that are coming up could be very competitive and be very defined in terms of the specific skills, experience, and projects that they might be working on for these roles. So a lot of these students who are going to recruit full time in a structured process will use the summer to prepare. They use student clubs. For example, like the management consulting club will have resources and activities in the summer that will prepare students for the full-time recruiting when they come back and hit the ground running in the fall. In other industries like consumer, healthcare, and also some leadership development programs might also recruit in the fall, but also oftentimes they do have additional opportunities as well throughout the year. And then there are, like I mentioned before earlier, there are opportunities like venture capital, private equity, media, non-big tech, and startups where recruiting is much more networking driven, and they happen just in time and throughout the year. What I mean by just in time is that these employers are hiring maybe one student. And these are the majority of employers that we're working with. Employers are working one off, and then these large companies, yes, there's a lot of students going, but if you look at the class as a whole, it's actually not the majority. Majority of the employers are these one-off employers that we're working with. But not to say we do work with big, large companies as well. So my biggest advice for JHM students is really to start early, have an open mind, and also stay true to your why. Your biggest advantage as a J-termer is that long runway that you have to build your network before any position opens up. You also have a runway to develop your story, your career story, and also be interview ready when that time comes, right? So also, as mentioned, a lot of students also leverage in-semester internships by being in New York to gain experience and build a bridge to full-time opportunities. And I saw a question on the Q&A that says, what have we seen as the most kind of successful way to secure in-semester internships? Actually, what I've seen the most students have the most success is when during your classes, when your professors invite external speakers to come in and they talk about their company and the project, and you have a skill set that matches what they're looking for and what they need. They make a connection and they connect after the class, and they build and they build an opportunity from that. So they actually source and pitch their opportunities, because in semester internships are not necessarily a common thing around the country. It is oftentimes, if you see these postings, they are as needed basis where we have a need, we want to hire someone to do this. So oftentimes you're not necessarily even crafting that experience, but if you're sourcing these experiences through classes, through networking, you'll be able to craft an experience that be beneficial to you and also your professional journey as well. And then the last thing I want to mention is that you're gonna get pulled in a lot pulled in a lot of different directions. I think our panelists here, they have a clear mind, right, and goal when they started here at CBS at a J termer. But if I ask them if any time during their time at CBS, did they kind of have doubt, should I change, right? Oh, should I be doing this? More than likely or not, that might creep in your mind. But also, it's very important to remember why you're here. Why do you decide to go to business school, and stick to that North Star? Because you will get pulled in a different direction just because you are in Columbia Business School, you're in New York City. There's a lot of activities, but very, very important to remember your why, but also have that open mind.
Definitely. Thank you, Long. I have a question we have a ton of questions in the Q&A box, and feel free to drop some more as we go now, because I'm going to transition to that. I have one that is about study abroad opportunities. So have Augusto, Danushka, or Rodrigo, have you, experienced any of the different like semester abroad, global immersion programs, global study tours, or, what have your experiences been with those?
So I sure want to do a GIP. I think this semester there were four options. There was one to Ghana, there was another one to a new one to Argentina, and two other ones to Italy, I think. But I was actually looking for the next semester one, which is to some Nordic countries where it's gonna be focused in family office and family enterprise. So I'm gonna wait for next semester GIP, but I've heard like it's like a must-do experience. And so yeah, that I mean that's what I've heard so far. So I don't have like much to say, but uh, I think
Yeah.
it's like a must do. Yeah.
And to give a little insight, correct me if I'm wrong for this class, you will be, studying a topic from, that business area in those countries during the semester, and then the last 7 to 10 business days we'll travel as a class together. Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Um, Perfect. Anyone else have an international education experience?
I personally haven't done one yet. As Rodrigo said, I'm also waiting for the spring semester to do one, but I do know two opportunities of my fellow classmates. One of my classmates is going to study abroad in the fall semester in Barcelona at the business school there. So he'll spend a semester there. That way, he'll be missing out the fall semester with us in New York, but he'll be doing it in Barcelona. That's an opportunity where you can do a full semester abroad if you choose to do so. And then there's also the Chazen Institute treks where you can travel during breaks. So one of my good friends, she went to China over spring break in March, and she said she really had a great time through the Chazen Institute.
That's
From
awesome.
from my side, I didn't do any, uh, but thinking about some other friends that did some, I think the GIP is amazing because you go for a couple of weeks, I think. Um, and there are other options that you go for a whole semester. But when thinking about that, the J term is already, let's say, compressed. I would stay at New York, in my opinion. I mean, I'm from Argentina, so being in New York is already an international experience, and being the J term super compressed, I prefer to stay at New York. Again, each decision is personal and it depends on each of you. So I would think specifically if what I'm trying to do really resonates with my own strategy.
Definitely. I have another question from someone who kind of relates to all three of you, where they said, I'm considering returning to Argentina to help run my family business. Would you recommend the J term? And could you share a little bit on, what aspects have been really beneficial from a family business perspective, and what was your transition back to Argentina like for Augusto?
Okay, I think the question aims on a part to me and on another part to Rodrigo, because Rodrigo has all the family
Mm-hmm.
office, family business background, and I'm the one that went back to his own country. I think the Columbia Business School MBA it's super good, and also the network here in Argentina is amazing. We have a really good alumni association, and that you can leverage a lot on that. Uh, some other friends came back also, and they went to their own family businesses. So from that side, I think what gives you the J-term opportunity gives you a lot of tools for you to do, let's say, whatever you want. So at the end of the day, it will still depend on you. If you want to stay in the US, if you want to go to Europe, if you want to do corporate a corporate career, if you want to go and do your, let's say, family business, or even if you want to start a company from scratch. So I think the J-term has this compressed calendar that it's super good if you are focused on something in particular.
Yeah, I
Definitely.
also agree with that. So, besides my company that I co-founded, I'm also part of a fourth generation family business in Mexico that has presence in Latin America and the US. So, when I was looking for programs, really, like the family business, um, like yeah, like the family business department or like the of CBS is like the it's pretty much the best option there is. It's full of resources. You have mentors. Also, when it comes to the J term, a lot of your classmates actually come from family businesses, so you get those conversations with people that are in the same situation as you are, and I find that like really really valuable because yeah, you um, like interact with people that are actually doing the same thing that you are and planning to return to their home country and run their family business or get involved in some way. So that's actually what I plan to do. So I'm gonna go back to Mexico to continue running my company and maybe get more involved in the long term in the this fourth generation family business. and really like it's really valuable to like leverage all the resources that Colombia has for in the family business.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both. For the next question, I'm going to turn it over to Long. I have a question on, what CMC resources and what curriculum offerings do enable someone to transition from tech to strategy or product management.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a CMC curriculum which offers a foundational career support, and additionally, we do have CMC liaisons and advisors that are primarily focusing on the tech industry, and they do come from they do have a tech background, and we do have an ecosystem that supports student clubs and work closely with the tech and AI clubs or any technology related student clubs as well that offer industry specific programming there as well. So it's a whole ecosystem. We offer part of it, and also we partner with Tech Club and also faculty to do more industry specific and also technical preparation there as well. So it is going from more planned workshops to events to also individualized appointments as well, where we get into to know who you are, what your skills are, and what you need, what you have to kind of transferable to what you have now to go to where you need to go. So we're all able to also have that conversation and help develop you that way as well. So it's a variety of different ways.
Awesome. I see a couple admissions questions. So one I'm going to go ahead and touch on. Someone's asking about extracurricular activities. And when we review those in our application, do we put a greater emphasis on the depth and long-term impact of a couple meaningful commitments or the breadth of involvement across multiple activities? I think that's a great question. I think truly what we're looking for when we look at extracurricular activities, that section in your application, um, we're one, just hoping to, get an insight into who you are and what you care about. But also, I would say we're really looking at leadership potential. And leadership can show up in a few different ways. It can show up in your job and how you're a leader amongst others, but it also can really show up in your extracurricular activities and how you organize and bring a group of people together to, achieve an organization's goals. And so I think that the emphasis on the like long-term impact of one or two commitments is more what I would lean towards because it shows, how are you being committed in your leadership for others. So great question. I saw another question that I'm going to go ahead and turn over to the students. It's a question about the process of finding housing, either on campus or in New York. For the two students, do you live on campus or off campus housing, and what is that experience like here in New York?
I can go first. I currently live on off-campus housing, just because when I was applying for on-campus housing, I think I missed the deadline for it, so that was partly on me. But if like I have a lot of friends that live on campus housing and they do love it. It is closer to campus, which they really like. I mean, the process to apply was pretty straightforward, super easy. It's just an application link. You put in like your basically your personal information, and then they'll match you with a house or apartment or whatever is available. But I actually found my apartment off campus housing, which is on Street Easy. I went in and I put in all my requirements that I liked. Like I wanted to make sure, there was laundry in the unit, that I had an elevator, just like basic things that are personal preferences to you. And then I was able to like tour a few places as soon as I got to New York, and then I was able to sign a lease. But one thing I would strongly advise is wherever you plan on living, make sure you live on the west side and where you can easily access the one, which is the subway line that takes you directly onto campus. It makes your life a lot easier, especially when you might be running late for a 9 a.m. class that we have. So definitely live on the one line. That makes your life a lot easier, if feasible to do.
Yes, I agree as well. So I actually came here in January with a 6-month-old year 6-month-old baby, and my wife. So I just wanted like the assurance of where I was gonna live and like and but I also heard like there's really good options of Colombia housing. I have a lot of friends that live up near Colombia, and it's really practical. So I actually kind of are jealous sometimes because they get to go for lunch in their in their apartment and maybe rest a little, and so yeah. I mean, there's a lot of options that Colombia give, and I agree as well. So to live near the line one, it's like a really big advantage.
Definitely. Well, thank you both for sharing. I see a question here that's asking, is the J term an equivalent to our executive MBA? If not, what are the key differentiators? And I'm going to go ahead and take that one. No, they're not the same structure at all. J term is the full-time MBA, just with a different starting point, so starting in January as opposed to August. Executive MBA is for folks who are looking to work full time while they study full time. So for full-time MBA students, they are not working full time. Executive MBA does allow you to keep your position in your company and keep earning income, and then you would study on the weekends, either on every Saturday or alternating Friday, Saturdays. And so if you're interested in the executive MBA structure, and that's also for folks who usually have a 10 or more years of experience, depending on the profile, I encourage you to also take a look at their website and maybe attend one of the webinars. Awesome. We have a couple questions, so or sorry, a couple minutes left. So I'm gonna go ahead and close it out by asking a question to everyone here, which is, do you have a piece of advice for prospective students who are interested in applying to our January entry MBA? If you had to give one piece of advice, what would it be?
Sure. I can start. So for me, the my like time when I was doing my applications was a really eye-opening for me because I mean you have to be honest about your goals, and I actually felt like when I submitted my application, I just felt like okay, it's done. If I get in, if I don't get in, it's okay. And this process of application, actually doing some introspection in myself, was really valuable. So really get to enjoy that moment, and so you're gonna uh, 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 like learn a lot of about yourself. Maybe I didn't did so much introspection about myself. I don't know, but before the application. But yes, just be honest about your goals, and that's what actually makes you unique. And I think that's what stands out in the application process. And also, J-term, it's like a great option if you don't have to do a summer internship. You have a clear post MBA direction. You maybe entrepreneurship, family business, sponsored, and so yeah, just get the idea that it's like the same network, same CBS MBA, same everything, just in a timeline that maybe fits more for you. So yes, that's my advice. Just be honest about your goals, and that's probably the way to stand out in the applications.
I completely second that. Thank you, Rodrigo.
I can quickly add on. I think Rodrigo covered a lot of the bases. One thing I would add on is that definitely use all the resources that Columbia provides. Like for me, I think one of the biggest things that really helped me was actually all the family business students that were current students that I spoke to, and I got in touch with them through the Hermes website. And it was really nice talking to them because they were able to sort of give me their perspectives on what it's like being a current student who plans to go back into family business. And some of them were like me, where they hadn't worked in the business yet, but they were going to join post graduation. So I think just having those conversations with those students really made me feel like Columbia was the right choice for me. So I think getting that sort of certainty was really important. And I think that's talking to those students is what really helped me.
From my side, I want again to focus on think about yourself. If J-term is good for you, if Columbia is good for you, I mean, it's not one size fits all. I know you're in the moment that you want to apply to a lot of schools or maybe two or three, and you want to get into the programs whatever it takes. But since it's a really big investment, especially on time, not about money also, but think about the time that you're investing in yourself doing some these type of programs. Just think that it takes two for tango. So think if it's going to be good for you, if the program fits you well, if it's going to help you reach that type of goals that you might have in the short, medium, and long term that you will have to think about for the applications. And it's not because you need to fulfill or just to fill the tick in the box for the application. It's really for you. So I think maybe some years after I finished my MBA, I'm happy I could do that, and I think it really fit my own goals. But again, it's not for everyone is every program. So I would try to understand myself first, and then to see if the program fits my profile, my mindset.
I think I'm
Totally
also.
agree.
Mhm. For me,
Oh,
I think
Long, do you have any
yeah.
advice for
No,
us?
I want to leave it up to the experts here. Yeah, ditto.
No, yeah, I
Hmm.
appreciate
Hmm.
that. And I will endorse everything that was said here. I think it's really important to be authentic and to take the time to reflect and to know what that means. What do you want and what kind of program best fits that for you? Um, I do want to shout out, we will have another J-term focused webinar coming up, an admissions roundtable on August 5th. If you are interested in any of the other events coming up, please feel free to look here. And then I also want to note, further say what Danushka was talking about, our contact a student portal. If you want to have a conversation with a student, please feel free to connect with them here. You can filter by, industry and by clubs to really get a sense, just like how Danushka talked to some of the family business backgrounds through that. So we welcome you to connect with our student ambassadors. And then also, if you want to stay up to date on what's going on campus, feel free to follow our Instagram. We post some of our events and admissions opportunities there. Um, but I know we didn't get to every single question today, so if you do have further questions, please feel free to email us here at apply@gsb.columbia.edu. We're happy to answer those, and we really appreciate you taking the time to join us today on a Friday. Thank you so much. Thank you to our panelists for your wonderful insights. Really appreciate it, and I hope everyone has a great